Hello students, in today's video you are going to learn about the first chapter of your text Hornbill. It is the very first chapter of your text. The name of the chapter is The Portrait of a Lady. The Portrait of a Lady, this story is written by Khushwant Singh. He himself is the narrator of the story, and this whole story revolves around his relationship with his grandmother. Now, let us come to the title of the story, Portrait. Portrait means some sketch or drawing or painting of something. Now, over here our author has drawn the character sketch of a lady, not with paints or colors or pencil, rather he has penned down the character of the lady in words. So, that is why it is called pen portrait. And who is this lady? This lady is none other than the grandmother of our author Khushwant Singh. Now, students, these are some of the phrases you are going to learn in this chapter. These phrases are new to you to learn, and you need to understand them contextually. You need to understand their meaning in context of the story you are going to read, and you will find all of them in bold letters scattered throughout the chapter from beginning till end. Now, as I told you that the relationship between the author and his grandmother has grown over the years, and how this relationship has changed over the years, the entire story revolves around it. Now, in this first paragraph, student, this is the first paragraph. My grandmother, like everybody's grandmother, was an old woman. She had been old and wrinkled for 20 years that I had known her. People said that she had once been young and pretty and had even had a husband, but that was hard to believe. My grandfather's portrait hung above the mantelpiece. Mantelpiece means the platform over the fireplace in the drawing room. He wore a big turban and loose fitting clothes. His long white beard covered the best part of his chest, and he looked at least 100 years old. He did not look the sort of a person who would have a wife or children. He looked as if he could only have lots and lots of grandchildren. As for my grandmother being young and pretty, the thought was almost revolting. She often told us of the games she used to play as a child that seemed quite absurd and undignified on her part, and we treated it like the fables of the prophets she used to tell us. Now, in this first paragraph, students, you are going to find that the grandmother, like everybody's grandmother, is a very old woman, and she had very wrinkled face, and she looked like that only for 20 long years that the author has known her. And people used to say to the author that once she used to look very pretty and she was young also, but that thought was hard to believe and raising doubt in the mind of the young author when he was a child. And the grandfather also has passed away. His portrait or his photograph, photo frame has been put up or hung on the has been hung above the mantelpiece in the drawing room. In the drawing room, there is a photograph, and from there the author could find that his grandfather also was looking terribly old. He was wearing a big turban and a loose fitting clothes, just like the other sick person or wears. So, over here we find that it was hard to believe to the young author. To his imagination, he used to find his grandmother very young, very pretty, and it was difficult for him to understand or to imagine that how his grandmother being so young and pretty could have married this aged person, because who looks this aged person, because his grandfather is looking 100 years old. So, this thought is raising a doubt in his mind. That is what is meant by the thought was almost revolting. Now, the grandmother also used to tell the author about his childhood stories, how she used to play games with his friends, and the author finds them very much undignified, because being an old woman, how could she play the game? The author couldn't even think of that his grandmother could have been also a child at one point of time of her life, right? Okay, coming to the next paragraph, she had always been she had always been short and fat and slightly bent. Her face was a crisscross of wrinkles running from everywhere to everywhere, and no, we were certain she had always been as we had known her. So, over here it's been said that old, so terribly old, she could not have grown older, and had stayed at the same age for 20 years. She could never have been pretty, but she was always beautiful. In the second paragraph, students, you will find that the physical description of the grandmother has been given, means the author is giving us the actual description that how the grandmother used to look like. Now, we must understand that to the imagination of the young mind of the author when he was a child, the grandmother was beautiful. She was never pretty in the sense of being pretty, or in the truest sense of being pretty. Rather, she is beautiful. Why? Because she used to wear white spotless clothes, and she used to hobble about the houses. The hobbled means if somebody has some injury or pain, then the kind of a walk that which we call limping, or that style of a walk is known as hobble. Here the grandmother used to hobble about the house, and as she was short, fat and bent, that is, she used to have a stoop body, that is a stooping forward, that is bent forward, so that she doesn't fall over. She used to balance her body by keeping one of her hands on her waist and the other hands counting the rosary beads, chanting the prayers silently. So, over here it's been said that this used to create a spiritual image, and the author used to find his grandmother very much spiritual, religious minded, morally uplifted, and that's how she has been compared to the serene, pure, white beauty of distant mountain ranges. See, students, in the distant mountain range, we find that the beauty is a different kind of a beauty. The tranquility pervades, that it's a calm and the misty, elusive beauty, and this beauty has been compared with the beauty of the grandmother, as her silver locks used to scatter untidily over her puckered face. Puckered means forming small folds or lines, and rosary means string of beads for counting prayers. Stoop means bend your body forward and downward. So, over here we find that till this paragraph we find that the author has given the physical description of his grandmother. Now, students, I must tell you one thing, that from the third paragraph begins the description of the relationship the author was having with his grandmother, and since he was a child, and how it is growing over the years. From the third paragraph you are going to learn about that.